11 game weeks in, and the data is really starting to mean something. In the coming weeks, we've got AFCON, we've got more transfers, we've got decisions to make on final chips. This is where the process matters the most. Right, guys, welcome back. This is the Above Average FPL podcast, The Process. My name's Adam, and as always, joined by Baker and Ivan. Gents, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, international break. I hate international break. I just hate it. I'm so bored.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving the break, but also I get to think not about the players themselves, but actually how things work. So yeah, this is my sweet spot, I guess.
Beauty. That's exactly why we do this now. So, as I said in the intro, there's plenty of decisions we've got to make over the next few weeks. We're getting brand new information like daily. So this is being recorded the day after Gabriel gets injured. Should I say injured? Because we don't know, but that throws up something. We've obviously got AFCON coming up, additional transfers in play. The data is actually starting to show how teams are performing, and it can become more reliable. Obviously, that larger that sample gets, it's really starting to tell a story. So,
hey, we are 11 weeks in. Like, how are you finding the season? We're now what are we past a quarter. We've got next week is 12. Week after that, so less than 2 weeks, we'll be 15 game weeks in. It's huge. Is a huge amount of the season's gone.
I mean, so far,
yeah, historically as well. Things like Christmas as well can define a season completely. The number of games coming thick and fast. Put AFCON in there as well. Our seasons could be made up. Not quite made or break, but not far off. By the time January comes.
I've been relatively content. I mean, the rank hasn't been fantastic, right? But I think it's obviously helped by the fact that the last game week I had, like those game weeks, these game weeks do help. Right,
I feel quite content. I had a really good week last week. Do you know what I mean?
It is recency bias, massively playing
creatures, really, aren't we?
We like points. We like the points. The points are what points win prizes, right?
They do.
We're in uncharted territory, though, aren't we? With the 5 transfers coming up, and Christmas as well. It's we've never been in this situation before. I mean, we've barely ever had 5 transfers before, so it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
What's the current plans, boys, for these 5 transfers?
How can you make plans when people like Gabriel's getting injured?
It's difficult, but I mean, like, this is so. Yeah, we had a chat the other day, Baker, and I was saying, like, I'm torn between this. Do I attack the next 4 game weeks and then reset, or do I, try and hold off by being too maverick and then use those transfers a bit more conservatively to kind of shift certain players that I don't want. But does that mean I'm going to be punting over the next few weeks anyway? I don't know. I would like to be more aggressive over the next 5 weeks and then reverse decisions that are incorrect, or be thankful that I'm ahead of the pack in that sense and making my way up the leaderboard as such.
How many transfers do you want in 17?
No, I'm only looking at 15 at the moment.
But in 17, so the week after we've got 5. How many do you think you'll have?
3, maybe 2.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Trying to think. But as part where we've had this like move to 5 transfers last season. Yeah, I played all season last season with never going past 2, but yeah, I never did it. And you constantly sort of felt a little inferior to anybody that was sitting with. The people were sitting with 4 and 5s. I was like, God, I'm not playing the same game as them. But you didn't mind as long as you felt like you were doing stuff that was working. And I had a really good run of stuff where things did work. So therefore, I became quite comfortable with it. Like, I didn't have a bad season at all.
You were also firefighting a lot of injuries last year that didn't, like you say, like I never got to more than 2, but I feel like you never really had the chance to. Like, you never.
Oh, I did. I did. I was not a patient man at any point.
Fair enough.
But I am looking at this and thinking, you know what I mean, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be on 4 or 5 that week after. And if they're on 4 or 5 and they're ahead of you in points, because that's almost the difference to an extent is a little bit, when you were using the transfers all the time last season, you were kind of using them to try and grab points. And hopefully most of the time that worked. So therefore is there were a lot of times where there were people that were 4 or 5 transfers and I was like, I think you've been way too patient. You're too concentrated on getting to those. But if people have had a really good start and people are in a really good position and then they haven't actually got a lot of people to take out, like I immediately look at mine and I'm like, oh, okay, is what I've got Boomer and Sar. So there's 2 immediately I've got to use, albeit you might get 17 out for one of them. Then you've got this Gabriel injury. That immediately does put maybe some dents in the amount of time, amount of gambles that we can have already.
Depends how you
So,
play as well, because I tend to play this season at least, and us as well, with a strong bench and leaving points on the bench, which should mean that it should be much easier for me to roll. So at the moment, I've got Anderson first on my bench against Sunderland. You could play him any day of the week. Am I tempted to do Gabriel to Van Dijk and then just still bench Anderson? Yes, absolutely. So, psychology is a funny thing as well. I should easily be able to roll, and maybe I should be. And I had four transfers going on 5 the other week, and I used them all in 1 week in the end. And one of them was Richards to Munoz just because I could afford it. And that's not the move you really should be doing, is it? But it's just the high up. It's just there, isn't it? It's there. It is fun. Exactly. And we play it for fun as well. So we're talking about the process, but I think all of us make no claims to having the perfected process by any stretch of the imagination, because ultimately we're human.
well, that's what we want to talk about. That's what we want to talk about tonight is as we're in an international break, as we've got a bit of time, as this is called the process, what I spoke to you guys about last week is whenever there is a break, I feel like it's certainly more time, more than ever. When I look at my timeline, it's full of different data visualizations because people have got the time. People have got, oh, there's not another game that's going to ruin this visualization. I can now put something out that shows you how this is happening, how this is happening, this team's doing this player's on this, top this, all of those different things. Whichever site you go look at, any of the squawkers, the stats bombs, the opters, all of them, not only just the FPL guys and stuff that produce all the data, you'll see it inundated with these things. And it sort of posed the question for me is you have a group of managers that just watch games and that's how they make their decisions. You have groups of managers that lean very much more into analytics and that's where they place, a huge amount of their thought process and their decisions is based on models and the work that they would do in that space. And then you have everybody in between. Yeah, wherever you place your reliance and you're like, well, I'm 90% grass and 10% I'll still look at those things, blah, 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 all the way across. We have a very wide spectrum of how we play this game. And, I was like, is there some data points? Is there things that people can use? Because I think any use of data could be useful, but it also can be misleading because it's all, especially when it's produced as a visualization, is they could be framing towards that we just don't necessarily understand, or it can certainly when things are ranked, they can look, oh my God, I want the one at the top. You immediately, don't you? You're like, I want the one at the top and I don't want the ones at the bottom. But those gaps can be really, really small and can be really, really noisy and can be in a game that like football, which is such a high variance game because of the lack of goals that are scored, compared to other sports. Then sometimes you can get very, very swayed by it. And I was like, I shared with you guys, I was like, here's a lot of stuff that I've seen around that I'm like, I like it. I don't know how good it is. But I thought, what's really important for us is I guess we're all now, Ivan, you're in this game with us, content creators in the FPL space, but most of all, we're people that play this game and try to work out how to do it. We chat about it incessantly, whether it's in group chats between us, and Discord, we do it on the timeline, off the timeline. we talk about this game all the time. So I think it's really important that people are quite open about how they play this game. What do they do? You know, is what they lean into, what they value, what they don't. I think that helps huge amounts of people when they hear and see that bit, because it gets them to challenge their own stuff. And it also then also what you don't know is, if you don't talk about it, people might be able to tell you quite quickly how you're doing it wrong.
I'm sure they will as well. I'm sure they will. But I mean, that's the great thing about FPL, isn't it? In that no matter what anyone says, there are so many different ways of playing it, and there's no objectively right or wrong way. I'm not even going to say the optimal way. You know, there's genuine. You know, we're all different in terms of our readings of the game, our reading of the stats, how we look at data, how we consume content. You know, and you know, it's good to have an open mind, even if you're not someone who enjoys looking at visual data. Why not have a look at it? You might learn something, you might not. But you know, unless you're open to, you know, all the different inputs, only then can you actually weigh them up and say, okay, well, I value that input, or I don't value that input so much. And yeah, so why not? Let's use every tool at our disposal. I mean, I'm old enough to remember, you know, back in the day when I was good. But you know, I used to look at Scout, and the one page I used to look at was the big numbers. We're talking like, what, 12 years ago, 30, maybe even longer than that. And that's pre-XG days as well. So it was, so and so had 3 big chances, so and so had 4 crosses from the right. It was rudimentary stuff, nothing compared to the visual data that we have now. But there was something there, you know, and that gave an edge, as it were. And now we've come so far now that we're having a podcast looking at various things, and we can pick and choose. Is that interesting to us? Yes or no? Is that useful to us? Yes or no? How much do we weigh it compared to other sources of input? It's up to us. So it's the golden age of stuff like this.
We are saturated now. I can remember, Adam, when like we first started talking about FPL and stuff, and you'd start throwing out some stats and stuff like that. I'd be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, mate. Like, is I just watched the football. Like, I would never be looking for any of that stuff. But you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to pick this guy because they've done this many shots, and I'm like, what is this witchcraft this man's talking of?
But you use the word saturated, and I would probably challenge that and say that there's a negative connotation there. But you know, you don't have to look at it if you don't want to.
No.
But what I would suggest is keep an open mind. Let's have a look. Something you may say, well, that's interesting, but I'm not going to use that. Something you might say, actually, that's just crystallized exactly what's in my head in terms of what I thought was happening, or it might bring up some surprises. It's just all part of the process.
I'm trying to remember those days, because that was when I was actually better than you at this game, but now I'm not. So that was good. There were good times. But yeah, I mean, I would.
The one that always sticks out in my brain was
the
Monday when
transfer.
you turned up. No, it wasn't. It was a James Milner captaincy. It was a James. I think he was maybe at Villa, like those days or like that. But I remember we were sort of chatting on our chat and stuff, and you did a James Milner captaincy, and I think he braced or something like that. And I was like, what was that? And you were like, yeah, well, he's been doing this and this and this in the box. And I'm like, what is this nonsense? I just watched Match of the Day on Saturday night. That's as much as I've got here. But now there's loads. There's loads and loads and loads and loads and loads. So yeah, I thought it was a good opportunity for us to just talk stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult. It's difficult to avoid it though. I think you say like you don't. I think it's easier to say that you don't look at it, but if you don't see it directly, like because we have so many connections, you'll see it indirectly somehow. Like second, third degree of separation, however far. There will be a way that somebody shares it in a group chat or passes it to you by a repost, or it appears on your TikTok feed or whatever it is. The algorithm will somehow find its way to you. And so, yeah, I think it is for me important to try and use it to reaffirm, or if you want to, you could just choose to just completely weigh in on that side and go, right, well, the next one I see, I'm going to take that in. I'm going to see what that says. I'm going to add that to my portfolio of thought process. And then next one comes along, do the same again. And, a couple of, even, you said we've gathered a bunch of stuff here for us to look at. I've looked through all of those. There's a few in there that I've gone, I'm not really interested in that stuff. And there's one or two that I've gone, oh, that could be kind of cool. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Let me have a look and see what it means, because then you can branch off and you can actually have a look. And I think one of the ones we've got is like chance creation and chances conceded from thirds of the pitch. That automatically makes you go and think, right, who are these players impacting that who are these players impacting that, and you can branch off and start to sort of make predictions in your mind, and then, as you say, you can put that into your model, or you can put that directly into the FPL site, depending on how you approach it. So yeah, I think it's good.
And that's it, really, isn't it? There's so much information out there, and there are models as well, etc. There's every way of different playing it. What we're looking at these days is we're just looking for that edge, because everyone is so close together, unless you're taking huge risks. Even if you don't use, I don't use models, etc. But if I ever say, oh, I'm stuck on these two players, and I say, can you just look at it, review, and tell me, inevitably they'll be neck and neck. So my real life experiences are basically replicating what's in the model anyway. So what we're looking for is the edge, and we might be barking up the wrong tree, but there might be something there. There might be something there that actually gives us that little edge, and with a little bit of luck, that variance comes our way, and all of a sudden, you've made gains.
You can just see that all the time. You can see that, oh, which of these two players? Oh, Ivan, this one's 4.3 points and this one's 4.24.
Every time.
Good luck.
Every time.
Good luck. Enjoy that.
I'm glad I asked.
I wanted just to touch on variance, because as you say, like, we're all pretty close together, and I think that's a nice little segue to just a couple of not random but anonymous managers that I am in mini leagues with. And this is coming from the season analysis on FPL Optimized, and it's looking at the Solio Analytics sample, and basically it's variance is a bitch, basically. And if you look at the manager on the left, they've been predicted against that sample 15.55 points below that sample. Their actual points against that sample is minus 94. Okay, so you look at that and go, well, that's, they've made some decisions that the sample believes to be suboptimal or whatever, and yet it's been horrific and really, really bad. So that's manager 1. Manager 2, again, similar, behind by 9.3 points, but their actual variance against the sample is plus 75. And this is just to highlight how big the variance can be. And we're talking about 11 weeks. We're not even talking about across the whole season. This is less than a third of a season. Right? Predicted difference minus 6.27 from the first manager to the second manager, and the actual difference is 169 points. That's just mind-blowing. So I think what that really is trying to say is focusing on this part of the game is really important, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Absolutely. What we should probably stress as well is this is against, did you say Solio sample?
Yes.
So, no one, I guess, is claiming that Solio is the definitive, that is the objective truth of what should have happened.
Correct.
But Solio is very much, it's based around spread betting markets, etc. And spread betting markets, bookies don't lose money, as it were. So, they use very sophisticated modeling to basically, come out on tops, as it were. So we can take it as not the objective truth, but a very good, especially in the long term, realization of actually what we might expect. What it shows there, you could say the guy who's done really, really well. You could say, they found the edge. There's no way that's the edge. The size of that over 11 game weeks, there's no way that's the edge, and vice versa as well. So, variance is a bitch, and this is the game we play. Yeah. So, it's fun doing a podcast on the process, knowing full well that we've got the spectre of variance looking over us, and we can talk about the process. Yeah. We can say, yep, we've got it. We've defined everything what we need to do, and it can absolutely kill us. But that's kind of why we like FPL in a way as well.
That is. Sometimes you can be the guy on the right. Sometimes you can be the guy on the left.
Going on there. Yeah, absolutely.
I think I always think with this, and look, we play it more than one season. Do you know what I mean? Is so. I always think with FPL, what you're looking for is, do I have the right ingredients that if the shit rolled my way, if they all fell in my lap, that I could go and do it, that I could get the big prize, I could get the top 10, the top 20, the win the whole lot, the whatever it is. And that's all we hope for in there is that sometimes you will just have a generational run. And what you've seen with those ones there, what I always find when I look at those ones in a bit more detail, it's actually normally one or two decisions. It's those sliding door moments, and actually they just end up being so ridiculous. Like we saw it last season, didn't we? The guys that kept Haaland versus the guys that jumped on Salah. For me, I jumped on the Salah Cunha thing, for a hit. I think it was in game week 9, and just unbelievable. Absurd that if you didn't do it, you were going to struggle to ever catch me.
Yeah.
In that season, it was almost impossible. Like sometimes those generational things do happen. What we hope is that we're in a decent spot, and at some point we catch that fire and just.
What I would say is obviously we conflate variance with luck, and its probability, etc. But what Solio, for instance, has recognised is that there are probability curves, as it were. So there are some players who are more likely to absolutely haul than others, as it were. And that's not to say Haaland's good, he might haul, etc. But sometimes you can actually in FPL take risk to actually position you in such a way to actually get lucky, as it were. And it may work, it may not, and you can just say, oh, I got lucky, etc. But sometimes you might pick a player who has a habit of blanking, but every now and again he gets a 15er, and when he gets if you get it right, good on you. You chanced it, and I think we've come a long way over the last couple of years because, and I think we may touch on this later, but when Review first came out, and the person who built Review would be the first person to say that's not what I meant it for. People were saying, "Oh, this is the optimal move," and they were laughing at someone saying, "You're choosing someone who's not the highest scorer on Review. That's You go ahead and choose the suboptimal move." And it was people were ridiculed for that on Twitter. Now we're in a world where actually we look at probability distributions and go, okay, well, you know what? I need to catch up. There's a person here with low EO who may not be optimal in terms of the predicted score, but has a habit of actually doing well occasionally. He could actually do well occasionally. I'm going to chance my arm. And that's much more acceptable now. So I think we've come full circle. And I think that's really refreshing.
Yeah, that is nice. That is nice. Good talk on to models, which is always, look, whenever we talk about models on the pod, partially I can almost see why a lot of people they're either like we're a pod that really talks about models, or we're a pod that don't talk about models. There's actually not huge amounts that do sort of that hybrid side of it, and we've always tried to be quite open about the fact that, everyone can see, because the fact we do a pod on Sunday night, that we like to talk about the football, we see all the football, but we also are like, cool, why would we not be interested in the data, or why would we not be interested in any tools available to us? We're not affiliate, we are a completely independent podcast. We are not affiliated to Review, Solio, any of those guys, Scout, any of those guys, Hub. We don't do that stuff.
Absolutely.
But we're customers of those ones. I think it's probably just early sort of cards on the table. So I historically I like to look at Review. I've never planned on Review as such, never really. I've always been a case of, this is the move I like. What does Review say that's stupid? And when they match up, I'll be like, oh, that's a nice little blanket. And if they don't match up, I say, Review, you're wrong. I'll ban you. I'll ban you and you and you and you until you give me what I want. That's how I want. Probably the worst way that anybody can.
I think that's very common. I think that's very common.
Solio, I've played around a little bit, but not a lot. Not a lot. I'll say with that one is I like it, but one of the other things as well is I'm a pure mobile user. I really don't like desktop and all that stuff. I try to stay away from that, and I think all of them are very well suited for people that love desktop and stuff like that. I really like TopVam. TopVam's algorithm, I've paid for that for many years, is as almost a look at it, am I picking someone that is just looks stupid, and try and stay away from that. That's my game. Are the people I like in that peloton of there? And again, similar thing, I'll still look at it and go, I think the minutes might be slightly better than that, and if they are, then it might hit. Most of the time when I go against that sort of stuff, it doesn't tend to work out. But like you say, sometimes you feel like it's time to hit those ones. So I do that. Ivan?
So yeah, I don't use them per se. Not that I have the greatest respect for them. In fact, what I love to do is actually understand what they're doing, etc. The reason why I don't actually use them is historically, it's not that I'm a Luddite at all. I just like trying to do what they're doing in my head, as it were.
Yeah.
And again, it's probably a masochistic thing where I could actually just, because again, back in the day, like Grandpa here, I know, I was one of the, relatively early adopters of XG. I was the guy on Twitter explaining to everyone why XG was great and we should use it, etc. So back in that world, you were kind of calculating who was good from the raw stats. Now, obviously, models nowadays take into account so many incredible stats, and it's weighted against the opposition. There's all kinds of things, not to mention betting odds and things like that as well. So I don't actually use them because, as I say, I say I don't use them, but I might message you and go, Baker, I'm stuck. I've got two players. I'm not sure which one to pick. Do you have any idea? Or does the review say? So it's not like I'm an absolute purist. I also look at spread betting markets as well. So I look at, I always look out for Rob T.
Stuff,
which ultimately gets fed into Solio as well. And that's the stuff I probably base much of my decision making as well. So to say, yeah, I don't look at Solio, I don't look at review, it's only half the, because I look at a lot of the inputs.
Yeah.
And some of it is just because I don't look at my rank and I don't want to accidentally see my rank as well. And I just don't use those tools anymore. I think what I'm interested in is what they represent and how can they be used. And what, so as I was saying, FPL is fantastic. The downside of FPL review is that, it'll essentially, once you've done X minutes, you get a score and people just take that as gospel. And what that leads to is, hey, this is the optimal way and this is a template. And we saw it over a number of years, really, really template teams, as it were.
Yeah.
Solio takes a different approach, takes a stochastic approach. So it looks at, hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of different variants of the same scenario happening. You can weight it, etc. So that's much more in line with the way I think. There's a chance Salah might get injured. I need to be careful of this, etc. What happens if this happens? Maybe I do get a little bit naughty and go for a low EO person with a high ceiling, etc. So I just basically don't use them per se. Greatest respect for them, but that's not to say I ignore a lot of the inputs that go into them.
I think as I've got older, I don't know, maybe I've just found, I mean, this sounds stupid seeing as I watch like most of the games, but I find during the week I've got less time to actually focus on spending an hour here looking at, I don't know, articles or certain stats, looking up stuff on Scout and Hub and stuff like that. I'd say in the last, well, this season, obviously Solio's new this year. I really enjoy the layout. I find it quite user-friendly from a visual perspective, and it just kind of sits really nicely with me. And as somebody who does spend a lot of time on desktop, it's really easy for me to use. So I'm almost certainly not using it in the best way. That would probably require me to, spend more time on it, which I'm not looking to do. But then occasionally, so I will generally run through Solio, a few scenarios, a few different things that I'm thinking about. And then at the end of the week, I'll just remind myself of what I was looking at. And then I will then just take a decision about what I feel is the best move. Like I will not just lean on the highest score, but I will think what's the best move. And you know what I'm like, Baker, as well. I mean, sometimes something can happen on a Friday night or a Saturday morning that will just go, you know what, I'll just get Jeremy Doku. So I do have that in me, and there is that's kind of the way I play. Is sometimes it is pretty instinctive, and that can be to my detriment quite often, but it'll lead to things like Michael Keane getting 15 points. So I did I can't remember who this was with, but I did an interview with someone and said, like, I'm the boom or bust guy, basically. So I would like the highs with the lows. The fact that I'm like ranked like 2.4 million, if somebody was 2.4 million and they've been 2.4 million for 11 weeks, then I think I'm happier being 5 million for ages and then all the way up to now 2.4 million. So I probably lean into models now more than I have done in the past. Guides me a little bit. But it's not my final decision maker. Sometimes I don't even know what the final decision is going to be until right at the end.
See, I mean, again, this is me who I've never actually used Solio. From what I understand about Solio as well, you can call it a model, but essentially you can get Solio to basically map it to being your, what did you call your style? Boom or bust, did you call it? Or
Yeah, boom or bust.
boom or bust. So you can basically
Loose
say,
and aggressive is what
Or loose and
oh yeah,
aggressive.
JC calls
absolutely.
is what
Yeah.
JC
You
calls
can
it.
basically set it to and it basically says, hey, loose and aggressive is okay. And if you do play loose and aggressive, this is what's going to happen, or this is what's most likely to happen, and you can map it that way. So it's not a closed book by any stretch of the imagination. You can be as aggressive or risk averse as you want, and you can actually do that and actually just play around with it based on your tolerances to risk and aggression and all of that, and your rank as well. So I think that's really refreshing rather than just. And again, review did not want it to be like this, but people were just taking a score as saying, this is the guy to get this week. This is the guy to get this week. These are the top 10 people to get this week. Maybe they are, but it's not as gospel as that at all. It depends on who you are, what you're trying to achieve, your aptitude to risk and variance.
I think it's probably time that we started looking at some data.
Yeah.
I think this has been a good chat. This has been a good chat. But and just to everyone, if you do enjoy the process, if you enjoy the content, please do drop a like on the video. And if you want to see more from myself, Baker, and Ivan, please do hit that subscribe button. That would be wonderful. Shout out to Crypto Block Dan, as always, for his support on the channel. And if you want to have more conversations with Baker and myself, then patreon.com/above average FPL, all the games, all the fun, beat Baker, etc., etc. It's all in there. We tell you every week. Just go for it. Where do you want to start in terms of data, mate?
I was just mindful of the fact of we've been talking about this, what we just talked about here. Not really talked about football, not really talked about teams, not talked about teams, not talked about players, not talked about anything. That's quite a long chat. We wouldn't ever get a chance to do that on a Thursday or a Sunday type stuff. But I'm really interested, if you are watching this or listening to this, let us know if that is interesting, or whether you'd like us to just get to teams, get to football quicker. Do you know what I mean? Is this useful? Like, this is the whole point of this series, was to be something that's like sits alongside what we normally do. Therefore we're learning from this. This is the second episode for us doing it. But if you like parts of it, please give us feedback. And if you don't like bits of it, we're very tough skinned on it. Please give us feedback. That's all I was going to say. So, well, you've got the buttons, mate. I don't. So many different things I've sent you.
It's cool.
You choose to tell us what you want to look at, and we'll work through it.
Cool. Well, then I think the first thing we should look at is the unicorns.
That was my most fun stuff.
I just think
one of the most fun data visuals I've seen in a long time.
I saw that and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So here is the FPL unicorns. So Tim Bayer at Tim Bayer 93 put this fantastic. I don't even know what this graph is called. What is it? Like
I can
a diamond
tell you what this
graph?
called actually, because he learnt it off of a guy called Peter McKeever, who does quite a lot of. I think does quite a lot of the stuff in the Athletic Guys and stuff like that. But he's nice enough to still have it as his pinned tweet. Tim Bayer does, from February 20th, 2020. Where he said, lots of credit to Peter McKeever who used this technique. I wanted to, one, learn how it works, and two, use it on some FPL stuff. So he did it almost as like a preview piece early on. No, he didn't give it a name for it, but
Didn't give it a name.
But he did give credit to Peter McKeever as being the person that inspired him to do it.
We'll talk through it, but what you're probably seeing if you're watching it on YouTube is that you can't read a single thing. So we'll zoom in, and this
just before you zoom in, if you want to zoom back, because there is a little key at the top, which is that the aim of this, looking at this, is around CBIT rate, hit rates versus expected goals and assists per 90. When you're going to see dots on this, reds are forwards, blues or purple is defenders, and yellows sort of more amberish is mids. And in order to be on this, you must have played at least 400 minutes this season. So that's effectively probably 5 starts really out of the 11. Why that's important, I guess, is what you're looking at here is, so left hand side, expected goals and assists per 90. Yeah, is you want, the higher you are on that left hand side, the more goal involvement you have. So no surprise, Haaland is furthest top left hand corner you could possibly be. At 1.12 MPXG per 90. You should explain as well, this is non-penalty. All of the data on it. And then on the far right-hand side, in terms of CBIT hit rate, you've got the likes of Ballard, Anderson, Senesi, you've got Tarko, and you've got some defensive mid guys, for example, like Florentino from Burnley, who's like pure DEFCON. Where I think this is quite useful is I tried to think of it almost like I think of it like a swimming pool. Is in my head how I'm trying to picture it, and you all get in almost at the side type stuff. And as you start to, if you're a goals and assist merchant on the left hand side, if you're a striker, if you start doing a bit of CBIT, you sort of progress a little bit further into the pool. You get a little bit deeper. You get a little bit deeper into the pool. And if you're a CBIT guy, if you're a defender, if you're a defensive midfielder, and you want to start, dabbling on the odd shot, the odd cross and stuff, you progress a little bit. So what you can see, for example, if you look to say, for example, Ballard compared to Senesi, he contributes a little bit more. So he's got the same CBIT hit rate, roughly, as those guys, but he's contributing a bit more on the goals and assists. Now, there's one other critical factor for defenders, which is clean sheets and so forth. So that's a whole different game on this one. But you're like, well, actually, how many of these people have like multiple ways in 2 points here? And if you're seeing guys that are like just in the wrong end of the pool, basically, for what they are, you start applying the price factor. So I think a really useful one there is like, for example, is Anderson from the Forest Anderson, sorry, I should say, which is about halfway up, like just above the R, I would say, in CBIT hit rate, but one of the furthest guys in, which is like he's really, really solid for CBIT, and he's pretty decent. Like he's actually performing, if you go along that line of goals and assists, he's performing similar to Szoboszlai, Munoz, Rice, I think's there. Some good guys. Yeah, that you would expect to. You're like, but he's got a really high CBIT rate. And he's 5.3. That feels quite useful. And I was like, where my brain was immediately was, I either want strikers in that far left hand side. You can see looking at this, Salah just looks like a really obvious captaincy all the time. Oh, sorry, Salah. Haaland looks like a really obvious captaincy all the time in that he's so different to everybody else. Like the distance between him, like he's going in off a different bloody diving board than everybody else. Like when he gets into the pool, like he's there, just at the end. I'm going off top board, mate, every week. But you then look at those guys in the middle in Bruno and Saka. You can't help but see them and think to myself, they just look like unbelievable picks to me.
That's before you take into account their penalties as well.
Plus they take penalties. Now they're expensive. So they stand out. I just wonder, do they stand out enough? Like when I look at Munoz there, just inside him. When I look at Ndai, just inside him. When I look at Aronson's really interesting, almost up around there. Szoboszlai, and you're like, well, those guys are 3-4 million quid cheaper than those guys. So they do stand out.
At the same time, there's a lot that's not on here. So as you say, clean sheets, bonus as well. We know Saka and Bruno, great for bonus as well. Aronson, you can tell me, but I'm going to guess not that great. So there's quite a lot that's not on there. Penalties aren't on there. Penalties, that's quite easy to compensate for because you can say, okay, well, that's per 90. You could probably, if a penalty is worth 0.75 XG, it's probably fair to say you might get a penalty every 7.5 games. So, if that's the case, just, you can just bump them up 0.1, essentially, just to say per 90, maybe that's the little boost there. But there's a lot that isn't there. And of course, if you're 100% on CBIT, that's worth 2 points a game. If you're 1 on XG and you're, say if you're scoring every single game, that's worth more than 2 points as well. So, the actual calibration of it is not quite right as well. So, this is a great example where you can see where people are relative to each other. But you just need to be careful in terms of how much importance you do actually weigh in, because yeah, Ballard's great there, but how many points extra is that really worth over, say, an Anderson? Probably is actually, but that's different from a Haaland to an Enzo, for instance. You're not comparing like for like. So interesting, but tread with caution, I would suggest.
Yeah, there's a few. Casemiro, for example, is one here that obviously stands out on the right hand side. But you have to remember this is on the expected goals and assists is per 90, and he only plays 65 minutes every game.
True, absolutely. Another thing as well. Yeah.
So a lot of the time, sometimes with these per 90 ones, you're like, actually, how interesting, are they? I think the Ballard one is actually something that I don't know that many guys with Ballard.
Absolutely.
It's a price. It's a price thing, though, really, with Ballard, is it not? Because everyone's either got Mukiele or Alderete at 500,000 cheaper, and he's now 4.6 or 4.7.
Yeah, I'm
so
trying to
once you commit, but once you've committed to a 4.0 Sunderland defender, like you trying to rationalise in your brain, oh, by the way, I need to find 0.7 million to upgrade my Sunderland defender to another Sunderland defender, or I need to get 2 Sunderland defenders. Like, I don't think that just computes in your brain. I don't think you ever get to that stage unless you're on a wild card, or unless you're using 5 transfers. I just don't see you ever making that move. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say about like how much it is a little bit messy, this graph, because I can't see where Szoboszlai really is, and I can't see who's around Semenyo. Calafiori and Timber, like right at the bottom for Cbit. So are they that bad? But actually, they're probably in the sort of top half for defenders. But there's a bunch of defenders that aren't marked around Semenyo. Like, I would love to know who they are, because they're better than Calafiori and Timber, albeit they probably don't have cleans. So, there's there are a few interesting ones in there. I think this as an interactive graph would be really, really good.
Absolutely, exactly. Like just look at defenders, just look at midfielders.
You take out the noise, and then if you highlight over a dot, you see who it is. Then if you can Power BI that, then I think that's where you can probably get some more value out of it. But as you said, I think the captaincy thing about Haaland is like nailed on.
But I was going to be cheeky, sorry, because I know your previous discussions about painting the Sistine Chapel and all of that with Timber and Calafiori, and I was going to say, well, they don't look like the Sistine Chapel there, but actually, I rewound on that, because actually, if you look at it, they're high up in terms of the attacking content. They may not get any C bit, but then when you think about the attacking content is worth more than the C bit, all of a sudden they do look really good, actually. So
that's a good point. To be fair, it is like I say, and that's one of those where it's this. Your eyes can't help but get drawn to some of these stuff, but the scales are not always exactly the same. Is in terms of what you want. Is would I prefer? And I guess that is which should I rather have?
But as a tool, just to say, these guys, these are the guys who are in the mix with all kinds of routes to points.
Yeah.
Lovely.
There's a weird scale on that left side. They're not 0.1, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.7. I'm losing it on this one, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit. There is a bit on it. That's what I'm saying. You kind of have to sort of interrogate them. At first, you're just like, yes, what should I have? Should I have Haaland, Saka, Bruno Fernandes, and Ballard? But actually, the more you look at it, Tim, I think he does most of his stuff on Tableau, so I think you might be able to probably just go on there, and actually probably can do his stuff. He does have his link in his bio for Tableau. I haven't looked at it again, because that'll be something that's really good and useful on desktop, and probably not very good on a phone. So that's out for me.
But don't get me wrong. This is really, I find this really interesting, and it's great to look at and to visualize a lot of what I thought was going on, and actually seeing it in front of me. Absolutely. My point is, I'll be careful. Personally, would be careful not to quantify it too much. But in terms of qualitatively, these are the guys in the mix who've got a good mix of things. That's also I was looking for. I should look more into these people. Fantastic.
100%. Matt Swiffer, we're not going in with 4.9. Matt, one of the interesting ones in it plays out. People like Szoboszlai plays out of position sometimes in the wrong way at right back. Matt Swiffer does the same. Has actually got 24 points in the last 4 games weeks.
That's mad.
Yeah.
Has actually got 24 points in the last 4 game weeks playing out of position. So
this season is just the perfect storm, isn't it? Of changing
weird,
points and the actual just variance or whatever. It's the game changing as well, and also variance coming in. just producing some
Yeah.
absolutely crazy outcomes at the moment. It's fun.
Yeah. Only just started getting so he played the first 2 games of the season and then had like 4 or 5 out. But the last 4 game weeks he's played 90, 90, 86, 90. Defensive contributions 11, 13, 16, 13. And got 2 assists in that 4 games.
And fixtures are good.
24 points.
He's my captain.
4.9. If actually, if I was like a sub £5 million midfielder, it's genuinely not stupid.
Yeah.
There you go. First pick of the ball.
That's
Get about super.
That's yeah. Why not? Why not? What do we want next? Do we want like under? Do we want to look at teams? Like
Yeah, just team stuff.
Just to contextualize how teams have performed so far this season. So Opta Analyst with their supercomputer, etc., comparing actual versus expected positions in the Premier League. And
so let me just check that out. So what they're doing there is in every single game they take the expected outcome and then recalculate the table. That's what they're doing effectively, is it?
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a result of how the quality of chances that you've had in a particular game.
Yeah.
And the result of that
as well,
so
I guess.
It's basically the result of our Sunday pods. Like if we look at our Sunday pods and you look at the timelines and you look at all those numbers, this is it in a league table based on expected. With their
actual must be the most useful table in the world, then. Obviously.
Absolutely. Well, it shows that Spurs are shit, basically. So, but we knew that. Like, you didn't need anybody to tell you that. So, some of the biggest, I guess, losers in this, or overperformers, I should say, Sunderland in 4th, expected to be 15th. So, are we overstating how good Sunderland are? Spurs 16th instead of 5th. We're definitely not overstating how good Tottenham are. We've been saying we're not very good. Villa in 6th, and the expected data has them down at 19th. Now, I don't know whether this is obviously partially because, well, it's not actually. I'm just thinking this is partially because of the poor start to the season. But if it's on a game by game basis, then they're just managing to get away with it by the looks of it.
Well, I'm not sure what happened the last game week, but I think until then they'd only ever outscored their opposition in XG once, and that was against Burnley the entire season. So I think every single game they should have lost, essentially, or at least drawn. They should not have won.
Yeah.
Not lost. Sorry, but they had no right to win based on XG. So that doesn't surprise. I was just really shocked they were in 6th. I hadn't looked at the table and couldn't believe it actually, based on how they've been performing and the XG they've been posting.
I mean, but so just on that point, the context. So Bournemouth last week they won 4-0, right? Mm-hmm. They put up 1.33 XG versus Bournemouth 2.
Yeah.
So
Bournemouth had a penalty, but still, it's that's not a 4-0 game.
No.
I'm going to say on this one that the big thing for me is I just had a look at the league table, and Sunderland are 4th, and Brentford are 12th, and there's 3 points between them.
Yeah.
Like the reason why there's so many different mad stuff on this is the league table is unbelievably close. And it just changes the narrative of how we talk about teams all the time. People, it's interesting. I think I was saying the other week about, I was like, how are Tottenham 3rd? I don't understand it. And you're like, well, actually, it's just the league table is unbelievably close. Yes, we're crap, but we're just 1 win slightly better than everybody else. But we could next week suddenly be 13th. We can't because not everyone can win. But Man City on 22 points. And then Everton are on 15 points, and that's 2nd versus 13th. It's actually really, really close. When you look at, if you look at the bottom half of the table, if you just take away Wolves, is Newcastle are 3 points off 19th. So as much as it's like they're underperforming currently because they're 14th when they should be 9th, they're also only 3 points off 19th.
At the same time, in terms of making FPL decisions, probably most of the time we're not going, well, this team's 14th and they're playing a team who's 9th. The 9th team's obviously going to win. It's only when I think most of us sort of see big teams, promoted teams, most of the people in the middle, and then you've got your Crystal Palaces, etc., who are doing pretty well, etc.
Yeah.
I think we probably mentally group up, in Bournemouth, group teams like that. I don't think we check the table and go, oh, look at them, they're way down now, So we're probably a little bit more nuanced on that. But there might be big outliers where, actually, like Sunderland, for instance, I think it's a really good example where it's just like, all credit to them, they've been done fantastically, but at the same time, just temper it a little bit based on who they've played as well. I think that's interesting context.
I mean, there's a reason why Roofs is the top scoring keeper, right?
Yeah,
Well.
Absolutely.
That's definitely a thing.
And they've done amazingly, and they've had they've had until, I mean, they've just done they did Arsenal, so that conversation is out the window. But they had easy fixtures in the first place, and the way they play as well. Smash and grab, does them a huge disservice. But they keep it tight, and then they get something, and so that gives different XG and XGC, game state and all of that as well. So they've done really, really well, and I'm surprised they're actually expected so low. But at the same time, not surprised that they're not right up there like they are at the moment.
It's a bit like what you just, when you think about that first thing that you showed, Adam, around the season review type stuff, is that stuff happens in football. That is football. Like, if it happens in FPL, then it also happens in football. I just, the top 6 teams in the league are the ones that are massively smashing their variance on expected goals against. Yeah, and it's bizarrely, it's only really it's only Burnley, other than that, and Everton probably a little bit, but smashing their variance, for example, as in they're having very good positive variance in their expected goals assist, in that they're conceding less than they were expected to concede. That we immediately just in our brains are like, these are amazing. Yeah, it's Palace are a really interesting one. They look quite unlucky here, but that's really because actually what's happened is that they should have scored many, many, many more goals this season. And anybody that's owned Mateta and Salah, which we have, all 3 of us got both, haven't we?
Yeah.
Is they're 7 under on goals versus expected goals. Like, nobody else is any more than 3. And they're 7.
It's crazy.
But what they have been really lucky with is also the expected goals against. They should have actually conceded 14.3 goals, and they've conceded 9. Anybody who's on their defence, we know that you've got relatively, like Gahey, for example. Gahey's been just a massive reason why people have done fantastically in these first few weeks. That stuff will change. So, do I think this table is as much use? I don't think in isolation it's that much use, but I do think it enabled me to go, actually, maybe I should just go and look and contextualize when I'm hearing this, because I think these are words that we hear a lot on commentary, don't we? We hear this up to third, up to second. We've heard it as Spurs fans. Ivan, you're obviously Ipswich, not Spurs fan, but we hear it all the time, don't we? Thomas Frank's doing a fantastic job. They could be up to second if they win this, and we're like, are you sure? Like, these things are useful to point you towards a table. I very much, if I'm looking at a league table, my favoured league table, by the way, is Understat. That's the one that I like to use most of all. If I go Understat, because you can have nice charts, but the table I think looks fantastic in terms of it's really easy to flick between overall, home and away, and it immediately will show you XG plus the variance, MPXG plus the variance, expected goals against plus the variance. Some other stuff it shows you, like expected points and all that sort of stuff. But I think I would say if anyone needs a recommendation for where to look at a league table, it'll always be Understat for me.
And just to note on XG as well, there are different XG models, so they will give, and we're not going to get on the rabbit hole of saying so and so is better than others. They do differ somewhat, but again, qualitatively they don't. So a large enough data sample, they all largely align. So for our purposes, unless we're crunching numbers and actually trying to generate our own expected points, looking at that was a 0.6 XG, that's interesting. It does the job absolutely.
Have you got the
Yes.
As we've got the league table, have you got the top 20 points thing that Rob T put out the other week? He has.
I said yes.
He said yes.
I said yes. Yeah. So these are the points leaders in FPL from Gameweeks 1 to 10. Top 20.
Oh yeah, Rob, what have you been doing? Do you have this is the problem. All the football guys, they all do their data stuff, but us FPL guys, like Rob, we needed new ones of these, um, with an extra week
This will
in.
more than do. And where
But
are the midfielders? Where are the midfielders?
the thing is on this is when you look at it, one of the reasons why you don't see the midfielders is because Palace defence have kept five over on their XG against.
Yeah,
So when they've only conceded 9 versus they should be 14, guess what? Their defenders get some points. So then they start
all of them.
turning up on here.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
exactly.
Even Arsenal defence is actually Arsenal defence, despite being absurd, because even still, if they conceded what they should have conceded, which was like nearly 8 XG, bear in mind the next best is 11, which is absurd. Yeah, how good they are. But they've only actually conceded 5. So these things like just massively snowball our opinions where I think people would look at this and go, oh my God, I must have 5 at the back. I must do this bits of it. And it's like, well, what the reason why the defenders are there and actually the number of guys, especially in the starts of a season, defenders accumulate as a pack, don't they? They hunt as a pack in their points, they accumulate as a pack. And then if they do happen to score or assist, then that's the differentiator that can sometimes push them up further. But as a whole, like remember Forest at the start of last season? This is the same. It was the same deal. It was like Murillo, Milenkovic, and Aina would have all been in these things. Those things do happen. Yeah, and also what you also have early in the season is if, for example, defensive midfielders score goals, they always have good baseline, so their goals are always worth double digits. Makes huge differences. So, I think possibly there is some overreaction to things that are on here that challenges thinking that people suddenly start to say, I must do this, I must do that, I mustn't run. What I need to do right away is have no midfielders, and I think it's like as soon as we start placing our brains in what's happened is how I should now play. I'm not sure that's the way, especially when I look at even I take Caicedo, which is what 8th on there.
Yep.
There's 9 points between him and Chalobah.
And there's an absolute ton of people, but just below as well, 48, 47, 46,
Ton of
45 as
people
well. There's
queuing up.
no difference between a load of players.
Ton of people queuing up. Like now, probably got Josh Cullen in the list. At some point, someone's going to buy him. At some point, someone's going to buy him.
I think the big thing is just the lack of explosive midfielders. I mean, Haaland's right out there. Gabriel's done fantastically. Semenyo's overachieved. God bless him. But normally you would, there'll be a good bunch of premium or not even, or semi-premium midfielders who are absolutely killing it as well.
Yeah.
And there's nothing.
It
doesn't feel as reliable, is it?
There's been a bit of injuries around there though, right? Saka's only played limited minutes.
True.
Is only just coming back. Palmer's injured. Son left. KDB left. Yeah. Like there is a big change. Like Semenyo's almost just taken the mantle upon himself. And a lot of his points came in the first 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Had almost nothing in the 3 before since then. And then obviously Salah's just fallen off a cliff. Well, I can say fallen off a cliff because he was in 10 games, really, he was up around the 100-point mark. So in a number of seasons. So yeah, I guess.
And am I allowed to say, I know I'm not, if only Bruno had scored his penalties? Because it would be a very different story. Very different story.
That is true.
I know I'm not allowed to say that, but I just did.
You can't have the points back.
Look, you can't score penalties if you don't take them. So therefore, all these defenders will say, "Well, I wasn't necessily had a chance to be in there."
Hat trick today. Scored 2 penalties.
Did get a hat trick. I think they scored 9, though. To be fair,
but still, I mean, the narrative absolutely is turned on its head. Then if they happen to go in, then we'll be saying, "Well, there's just Haaland, Haaland and Bruno."
Yeah, Thiago's not even on here, right? Your boy Thiago's not even on here. He's now 7th.
Yeah.
He's now 7th. Do you see what I mean? Like a brace for anybody this weekend, and they're on it. And that's why I'm like, I definitely saw discourse around like we should use this as a way to go, this is how I should now set my team up.
Yeah.
I think that's mad. Like, that's not a good way to play. Like that is purely just going outcome focused. This is what I should do. Off we go.
So are we saying Haaland, Gabriel, although not anymore, and take your pick of anyone else? Off you go.
Yeah. I think there are parts where it can work on this is where you're looking at this is challenging yourself around picks within teams because the same things happen to that team to an extent, especially around defenders, and that's but so if I look and say Chalobah's there and he's on 49 points and I don't think I don't 100% know, but I've got a feeling he didn't play. He got sent off, didn't he? So he definitely hasn't played all of the games.
Yeah, he missed one.
And therefore I'm like, that might be. Is that still my brain still would lean towards James, would still lean towards Cucurella if I was looking at Chelsea defenders over Chalobah. And again, maybe I should, if that was the team that I want to, maybe I should look at this a bit more.
At the same time, we need to appreciate it's 10 game weeks. So yeah, it's a decent enough sample now, but people by definition, there's going to be a lot of compaction. So maybe we just need to be looking at the really, really high ones and the really low ones. And we're not mentioning DEFCON, and it has made a difference. So we do need to take that into account as well. Why are some of these players bunched up in this half rather than the slightly lower half? It is going to make a difference, especially over 38 game weeks.
Yeah, definitely.
Senesi, for instance, wouldn't be on here if it wasn't for DEFCON.
I'm just thinking.
So
Lacroix, Senesi, and Caicedo are the only three that wouldn't be.
Yeah, quite possibly.
So everyone else
is interesting in itself, actually.
Well, I mean, Chalobah as well.
Yeah.
And Dyer.
But it is interesting that the vast majority of defenders there got their points for attacking returns rather than DEFCON, which just shows that if you get the right ones, and obviously Van der Ven's not going to keep it up, surely. But, if you get the right ones, then you do have the potential to outscore DEFCON. But quite often that comes at a price. So, you need to weigh that against it as well. And when you take into account price, you're probably looking at price per, or value per million, pretty close.
Even if it's not the attack return, you also, they've got to have some cleans to them. They've got to have something.
Of course, absolutely.
All right. Where do you want to go next, Adam?
I don't know. We can have a look at the created, so we can have created in the thirds, or we can have a look at bunchiness. We're getting bunchiness keeps us in teams, and then the created versus conceded gets us sort of back into players. We go teams again. Bunchiness.
Teams.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
I mean, this is just in general fixture tickers as well, isn't it? Like how much do we lean into fixture tickers?
Yeah.
I mean, historically, I've loved a fixture ticker, and I'm the kind of guy who wildcards just because the fixtures are changing. This season, I mean, this says slightly otherwise because it's looking at it a slightly different way. But I think, as a general rule, this season the swings aren't significant in terms of fixtures, and actually the fixtures don't seem to make a huge amount of difference at some points as well. So it's seems to be so far a slightly different game we're playing in terms of fixtures. But that could change.
So just before you get there, just to give it, just for people looking at it while we're talking. So if a fixture or a game week is marked as green, like solid green, this is a clean streak of 3 or more favourable fixtures. And if it's got lines through it, then it's a soft streak. So it's a sequence of 3 or more favourable fixtures with at most one difficult game breaking them up.
Okay.
So that's kind of how to read
Tim again,
this.
isn't it? That's
This is Tim Bayer again.
Yeah, it's nice.
It is nice. It does look at this and you're like, all I can talk about is Liverpool and go, I'm not sure I want anyone, not sure I don't want anyone. Then you look at this and you're like,
I'm looking at that thinking, well, Gabriel's injured, so rude not to.
But at the same time, there's lots of favourable fixtures, but this is domestic only, right? So they're favourable, but Liverpool are a team that have games in between, like all the games in between. Like I look at this and go, Thiago is not leaving my team. Like there is no chance. And also, like United, like can I get a second one in over the next 5 weeks before I get my 5 transfers? So does it mean that like a Bruno and Bumo is like might be the way, maybe.
And it, we've talked a lot about Bruno or Bruno and what do you do if you've got one or the other and so forth. But if you're thinking about Bruno right now, I do look at those and think good fixtures next 4, then Bruno goes away, and the fixtures, if anything, get better.
Ahmad goes as well, doesn't he?
Who goes? Ahmad goes too.
Ahmad goes, yeah. That's big. Yeah.
It's big. It could still be Sesko and Mount and Cunha, couldn't it? It could still be that midfield three. It could still be.
They've also got 2 in that gap. They've got 2 home games as well. So it's Bournemouth, Villa, and Newcastle in those 3 white fixtures in between 16, 17, 18. So they've still got 2 home fixtures in there. It's like, okay.
Yeah. For Brentford, I think you look at it and say, Thiago just feels a very obvious pick. Whether it's your 3rd striker and then you dead end a midfielder down. I think that's, and this does look a bit like when I'm looking at this, it's in game week 16. Almost that might be the decision for a lot of people. I can see a lot of people doing, for example, a Sarr to Thiago by deading that midfielder spot. For example, like for me, who's got like a Giu, you're like, actually, is there anyone out there that's going to be like a £6 million or so guy that's going to be worthwhile? Okay, this is useful. It's when you're looking, it's the old fixtures v form conversations, isn't it? To an extent of how much of this is do you start saying, well, the fixtures are there, so who cares whether they were doing the points or not? Because Liverpool are the ultimate challenge right now on that, aren't they?
I mean, there's a huge amount of context missing as well, though. So, for instance, you can say Liverpool, well, I don't want anyone. If I was to say, well, the 2 next matches against 2 of the very worst teams defending headers at corners, and Gabriel's injured, then, straight away, that's a different conversation again. Then factor in Europe, etc. as well. For the bigger teams as well, that there's bunchiness, but then there's also congestion as well. So it'd be lovely to see that overlaid at some point.
One that's as we're thinking about AFCON and we're getting there, and I know we're moving a little bit away from the process, as it were, but we will have 5 transfers. If you look at this on Bournemouth, most people have got 2 Bournemouth. Most people have got Senesi and Semenyo. Yeah, literally like the highest most. Well, if Gabriel's out, probably the highest most owned defender and the highest most owned midfielder.
Whoops.
Well, you both sold Semenyo, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
But after these next 3 weeks, that's going to take up that potentially those are guys that could take up your transfers.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting with a couple of guys going to AFCON and you're sitting with 2 Bournemouth guys, there could be 3 or 4 transfers that you want to use. Those 5 transfers, I think they can go quite quickly. I mucked about on FPL team earlier, and I was like, hold on, that says 5 out of 5 at the top. I was like, have I just used 5 transfers? And I was like, I don't feel like I've made much change. And then I was like, I've used all 5 transfers. Fuck. They're gone. I think it's easy to do. It's just like wildcard, isn't it? When you wildcard, like I didn't think I needed a huge amount of wildcard, and I think I still made 11 changes out of 15.
I mean, I guess DEFCON opens up a new strategy where you can actually keep a lot of your AFCON guys, or a few of them at least, bench them, and instead of selling them, just use your transfer elsewhere, or just use a DEFCON friendly defender guy to get, just get through a few weeks. It's not going to be long for a lot of them.
If they were cheap, but I'm not sure I'm doing that with Salah or certainly not Bumo, 8 million.
I mean, Bumo to Semenyo looks interesting. I got Bruno. So.
I bet, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me that says, if there's one thing there, Thiago looks interesting, and possibly Virgil.
These are good for people especially good for people that don't use models. I would say, is because models. I think what's really interesting is sometimes for those that are either model resistant or just non-users as such, is what you're looking at here is not player predicted points. You're just looking at, is this good for the team? But good for the team doesn't necessarily always mean good for your players. Therefore, there's always a piece to me to an extent of actually, does that player get crap? Like, for example, as Adam just said, is it their free getting? It's like, well, actually, it's got 2 home games. And you're like, I guarantee you, I guarantee you, if you go on Solio, is Bruno particularly predicted about 5 points in each of those games? It won't be too bad. It's not, oh my God, I must get rid of him.
We do run the risk of being a little bit reductive with these and fixture tickers in general as well. And, there's an argument to say, hey, well, who are the team? What are they vulnerable at? What's their style? Left or right? Do they have a certain weakness, etc.? Maybe you can overplay that. It's always something I've always thought I should get better at, identifying the weaknesses in teams and actually, backing myself to exploit that. Sometimes there's that, like, I think Southampton last year was just glaring down one side. It was just so obvious every single time. That's a relative rarity. And quite often, if a team has a weakness, obviously their manager knows it and they're going to try and plug it as well. But we can be too reductive in these things and just go, look, rubbish team, 3 rubbish teams in a row. We should back this player. And actually, if we choose to, we might want to look a bit deeper into that and actually provide some additional context and actually try and work out whether that person is the best for that match or not, irrespective of the actual fixture itself or the strength of the fixture.
Adam, have you got the one that's the team style one? It's EPL data analytics ones, one of the ones I sent over. I don't remember where I should.
Did you share that one?
Yeah, definitely shared it as such. I don't know where it was one that was built. It was a left, right, direct versus build up type one.
Yes,
because I did think that was. I think team style has become more important probably this season than any other season because of DEFCON. Because we're not just thinking necessarily about what's that score going to be. We are actually thinking, how does this flow? But I think also not only DEFCON, I think there are things in team style which play through to how predictable certain things are.
Absolutely. I think this is the new frontier of DEFCON as we go forward, is actually being able to predict DEFCON depending on the opponents.
Yeah. So there's a person at Data Analytic EPL does huge number of visuals, mostly like this type of visual. And one of the things I'd say about Data Analytic EPL is that actually I think sometimes there's too many visuals that I put up. So there was like, I think in the last few days, it's put up like 4 different ones around team style comparisons type stuff where, but I would say is if you look enough, then some will make more sense to you. So I think he did another one of this where he broke it into build up teams, counter attack teams, direct teams, all sorts of different teams and these ones. But effectively what you're looking at here is the average pass per sequence, so sequence of play, and then the average direct speed upfield, so how quickly they move the ball from front to back. And we've talked about it many times, but one of the reasons why I like playing City, for example, is not incredibly good for DEFCON to play against them, is that they hold the ball for a significant amount of time and they progress it relatively slowly. Yeah. The majority of the time, what I would say is with Man City, actually, if you picture a number of goals they score, they don't always do that. It's not that they always do this, but the average. But what they'll be there is actually some that are 14, 15, 20 passes per sequence, and even slower than this, is because actually what they do is sometimes the way that they bait is they do that slow, and then they hit Haaland through.
I would love to see this per sequence that led to a chance.
Yeah, well, they produce enough. They produce enough charts. I wouldn't surprise me if they actually have done one of those. Really wouldn't. But in general, I think what we've seen historically is elements of control. We know there's been obsession over the years around control in the Premier League. Now, I think that's a little bit less maybe than it used to be. But the teams more towards the bottom right-hand side here are Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, and Forest, surprisingly. Well, Forest probably under Ange mostly is, and we've talked about it ad nauseum, but Ange always liked to try and play like he had Real Madrid players, even when he didn't have Real Madrid players, and that didn't really tend to help him very much. And I think what's really interesting here is that Liverpool is incredibly different to Klopp's Liverpool. is, think about what Klopp used to call it. He used to call it heavy metal football. It was quite direct. He used to use the term all the time.
Yeah, you used to
Albeit
call
little
him.
pants.
You used to call him a long ball team, didn't you?
Don't say that out loud, mate. You know the comments are going to come for me the second that I call Klopp a long ball team. But they were quick. You think about the number of goals that Salah were getting behind. This is not good for Salah. There's good stuff to think about this and think, well, this is not great for them. I think Palace are a really interesting one from looking from this. When you've got a team that plays quick, fast and direct, and you've got Brentford in this zone. Let's just forget Burnley are in this zone as well because we're not. Well, Fleming scoring, so maybe we can call it that. But when you've got fast and direct teams, they go vertical quickly. Just by the simple nature of it, if you then close your eyes and picture what does a vertical goal looks like and who puts that ball in the net, number 9 or wingers, flyers. So actually, what fast and direct can do is make who's going to put them in the net more predictable, especially if the average passes is less. You're getting the ball further forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite often, it's not the ball from the back to the person at the front and they score the goal. It's normally ball from the back, down the channel to the middle, score the goal. Yeah. And therefore, if anyone watched the Palace Brighton game and owned Salah and Mateta in that game, you were like, I don't know how they didn't combine multiple times. Now, that takes up a very small part of the entire game because it happens very, very quickly, but those moments happen all the time. Brentford, you look at it on this one, Sharda and Thiago, feels really obvious.
Yeah.
You've got 6 or 7 players that are just not going to score the goals. So as long as they're going to score enough, they're going to be incredibly valuable. Now, Sharda's a little bit expensive, but this does tell you why Thiago is just a really good pick. It does tell you why Fleming, to an extent, is still punching really a little bit for above where he should be. But if anyone's going to score, it's then they're going to try and get it to that forward to score the goals. It does tell you a little bit why people maybe are liking, for example, Bumo and Cunha more than they necessarily would like Bruno. Or eye test to an extent. You're like, hold on, it's now Bruno actually is one of those, well, almost a unicorn, as we just said, where actually he can do a one passer that gets in, and they do have that part to it. And he also has that weird mad knack where 2 or 3 times of the game, he's the person that somehow gets on the end of those ones because he decides to clear off. That's why we look for it. So yeah, I really like looking for value in fast and direct. I think if there's good value in fast and direct, I'm like, as long as it's going to work out and I'm going to get enough. Where I don't really like is actually almost the stodge in the middle.
Absolutely.
Because I just don't think I'm getting any of it. Very rarely a slow and intricate, they are normally dominators of the ball. Like, you can't be a slow and intricate and be bad. That works out. That's how you get sacked, Ange. But you've got to be good if you're going to be slow and intricate. Those ones around Tottenham, Brighton, West Ham. Now, Bournemouth, I think, suddenly are really interesting in this, and Newcastle even. Voltemada has done really well from it. But Bournemouth attacks probably, in my mind, under Iriola, should be a little nearer Palace and Man United. You boys have both sold Semenyo. I kind of felt that watching last game. Like, did you watch the game that you didn't own him?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But at the same time, I was a little bit more worried about him last game specifically because Evan Nilsson was back. And I think maybe the week before I'd convinced myself that playing style had changed slightly with Krupi. And then with Evan Nilsson back, I did worry because Evan Nilsson doesn't always like to take the shot, which means the onus is on the guys around him, Semenyo, Kluivert, Tav, those guys. But no, I didn't watch it. But I think we get that a little bit because I suppose Truffet's pretty attacking. He's not quite Kirkes, but that's I guess we saw.
With it.
Yeah, which is weird in some respects, is why like thinking about Liverpool when they do actually have flying fullbacks that want to get up and down. So
Newcastle do.
no, Liverpool do.
Liverpool do.
Liverpool still have those fullbacks. They still exist. They still can do it, but they just don't use it.
But I'm probably missing something here, but the dotted line is going across, so from 2, just above 2 going across, and from just before 6.
I'm guessing that's a hard average, isn't it? That's probably just.
I was going to say, is that the mean, or
so?
I'm guessing it's the mean.
Because
the
like
movement is about the mean, isn't it?
Probably is, yeah. So the if you were to move those just arbitrarily to the right or down a little bit, all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, Bournemouth are in the same quadrant. It changes the perception of it somewhat. You can say, oh, Bournemouth bang average, but actually take the mean away, it might actually be true. But that's also bunched up. They're still towards the end of Crystal Palace. They're still with Manchester United in terms of that neck of the woods.
Yes. It's a fair point as well. When you look at some of these, you are looking at the scale to an extent. You're like, oh, hold on, what is the difference between 1.8 to 2.3 and so forth? But I guess it's that they are the most direct. And does it ring true in my brain? And I'm like, that does ring true in my brain.
Absolutely. But it is interesting, isn't it, when it's so slow and intricate? Well, who determines what's slow versus medium, or it's all relative, really.
Yeah.
I just worry for Wolves, who have just got fewest, so
that's why they've got
not many
points.
passes in sequence, and they're really slow as well. So
that's
terrific.
That's a good key to getting sacked, I reckon.
Yeah.
That's a good key to getting sacked.
I think you could easily bunch it into 3.
Yeah. I don't think you need this chart to tell you it. I think you know it, but I think is if you don't know it, if you like, I mean, maybe we know it because we watch a lot of football, but if you don't know it, then I think I think these are useful for us interpreting to can we predict when we see Brentford as predicted 2xG in a game. I mean, that doesn't really happen, but when it's like 1.6, 1.7, it feels good. So like we've just shown, those run a good fixtures. A direct team.
Yeah.
As long as the strikers getting the minutes, it's going to be good.
What you suggested about Crystal Palace and Brentford as well, completely agree. What I would say is you could tell that from XG anyway. So I think what this is narrative building, and it probably reinforces that's why they're getting XG. And I think they continue to play this way, they'll continue to get this XG. So that's nice as well. So I think it's context and narrative building. Rather than a pillar of a decision. But I see that, it does make me think, that's why Thiago's getting the points. I can see him continuing to do that. So there's interesting stuff there.
Probably got time for 1, maybe 2 more. If you want to have a look at anything in particular, the Opta created thirds, conceded thirds, or
finishing data analytics. You've got the corners ones.
Which one do you want to see?
Whichever, because I think they're both useful in different ways. This one,
I didn't really understand this one. Well, I didn't.
This one I didn't really think is particularly useful for FPL. So I was going to say this is a chart which tells you the XG per corner across the bottom and then the XG per corner conceded. So it's matching defense versus attack, and I'm like, do I care?
Yeah, they're 2 interesting stats in their own right, but on a Viz, I don't really see why they need to be paired together. Who's good at corners? Who's not good at defending corners?
Yeah, they're different. They're different things for me. Different things for me.
I guess in theory, you'd expect some kind of correlation between good defenses because it's the same personnel, right?
Ultimately, it's the same personnel.
But then it's the same personnel at both ends. So
yeah,
I didn't know quite what to make for this one. But this
one, I like this one.
Yeah, this is the one.
This is the one. So this one is the XG per corner down the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So the higher up you are on this is the more XG per corner you get. To the right is the volume of corners per game you're currently getting. And
it basically says that Arsenal basically create 0.4 XG, 0.4 or more XG per game on average.
Yes,
from corners
through the combination of being around 0.07 XG per corner, but you get 7 of them.
Yeah, it's about half an XG. Yeah,
actually says that the best team at corners in the league is Man United. They just don't get enough of them.
I wonder whether it's taking it directly from the corner. Or, I mean, Brentford and Newcastle, I'm assuming it's probably a lot of short corners, unless that's factored in, because there's no reason why they should be just absolutely rock bottom.
Yeah, that is semi-interesting, I think, to an extent, is that they're having a fair amount of them, but not necessarily getting a huge amount or getting virtually nothing from them. Because Brentford, you would think, like you always just think of whenever there's a margin, they'll try and find their way through it. So to see that they're getting so low XG per corner.
Newcastle, they've got Dan Burn, they got Cher, and
Botman, Voltemada.
Exactly. So I do wonder whether it only counts corners that are taken directly rather than short corners.
Look, it's noisy as well. This is the other thing I'd say with this one. It's incredibly noisy, especially if you have low volume of corners per game. So therefore is your per corner, you've only got to have one chance of like 0.8, 0.9, and suddenly your XG per corner looks incredible because you don't have many of them. So actually, the more corners you have, almost this should become more reliable because you've got more opportunities for it. We've just seen, I do think there are. I always think there are potentially teams that are trying to get more corners. I think Arsenal definitely look to do what they can from that, and I think that might come from necessarily some of the wing plays. So I think the other thing you want to look at was where people are like creating chances and conceding chances from, which is an age-old thing, isn't it? It's something we talk about all the time in Twitter, doing stuff. What are you going to say, Adam? Do it. You love it.
No, I triple captained a player based on this information a few years ago. Son versus West Brom. Literally triple captained the guy. 3 points. No, 5 points. I think he got an assist in the last minute for Kane. But this is really interesting for me. So so this is basically, you assume like 100%. 100% is all your chances, and this says that in the left third, Arsenal's open play chances 25% come from the left, 41% from the right, and 33% from the middle. Kind of makes sense because Madueke was great in the first few games, and then Saka is over there, and the guy that plays on the left is Trossard, who doesn't spend any time on the left anyway. So
and Calafiore doesn't spend any time there.
No, they're both just in the box.
I do think where there is elements of wing play, I feel like that quite often will lead to potentially more corners as well. You're sort of closer to that area, aren't you? People let you get further down the field when you're down out the wing than you do necessarily through the middle. There are some ones where it makes me think of the players. I look at Saka, for example. You're like, well, he's going to be instrumental. Therefore, when he does score, he's going to be good on bonus because he's having all of the stuff in it. I think you've got almost natural creative. You've got a Grealish just stands out like a sore thumb here down the left-hand side for Everton. 57% of their chances are coming that way. That's probably why, and Dye, for example, I look at his stats quite often and I'm like, he just doesn't do anything. Like so many games, he gets less than 0.1 XGI, like so many, like more than half his games. But what effectively he's going to do here is, as long as the ball gets to the back post, he could potentially be the recipient of those ones. We've already had one of those this season. And he's going to be the recipient of chances. It's just a question of how many he gets.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's where the chances are created. It's not necessarily where the chances are finished.
I struggle a little bit, bizarrely, with that though. Like it's when I'm looking at players and I know that they're almost reliant on somebody else to do something good to get my player points. Mm-hmm. I really struggle with that. Like my brain goes,
Grealish.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, isn't it? But I'm almost like, maybe I want Grealish. I like the idea of seeing the man touch the ball. is like, I like Saka more than I like Trossard, for example. Those things are kind of what I'd want to see. It doesn't surprise me, for example, Newcastle, although they've got wingers, we know that the best players in there, they've got the best central midfield one of the best central midfielders in the world in Joe Linton, Guimaraes and Tonali, and does it surprise me that they do a lot through the middle, open play, create chances? No.
I think that's a weakness of Newcastle these days as well. I think without Livramento, they're being forced to go down the middle. They're too predictable as well. So I actually see that as a downside.
Definitely think it's been a downside for this. It must be much easier to be predictable. Hall and Livramento this just would
Yeah.
even out in a way that would just be so hard to stop.
Absolutely. And then the elephant in the room is how many chances are actually open play these days anyway?
It's the elephant in the room.
Because a few years
Yeah.
ago, we'll be looking at, as Adam says, I'm captaining Son based on this. Now it's a case
changed
of,
a
well,
lot, isn't it?
how many of these actually, compared to set pieces, should we be looking at set pieces? Something similar.
Do we care? Is that what you're saying, basically, now?
No,
We're
not at all.
chasing
But
it.
it's like anything there. You got to apply the context, and the context of this season is different. Absolutely, it is different, and I think it's up to us to challenge our old ways of thinking and just check whether they are still valid or how valid are they, and should we be breaking other things as well. And I think this is really interesting, but we need to bear in mind that different teams can break different levels of open play chances these days, and how good are those chances as well.
You are right. I find myself quite often getting more excited. Like, always playing West Ham.
Absolutely, we all do
They're
it.
bad at
We all
set
do it.
pieces. I find myself actually more interested in how bad the other team are at set pieces than I do necessarily in targeting these open play ones nowadays.
Although I think from that graphic that you had before that we whisked over, the one that didn't really work with the XG conceded, West Ham weren't that bad actually.
Wow.
I glimpsed it, I think. Is that the one?
Nope.
The one before that,
one?
I think. Yeah, this one here. Yeah, West Ham, XG per corner conceded, so in the middle. Not great, but
there's only 3 teams worse.
yeah, true. But one of them a lot worse. So yeah, and Chelsea have been bad as well. So I take it back. But
and Man United,
I
I suspect a lot of that was Bayender. I suspect a lot of that was Bayender.
Yeah, absolutely. And if this was the first 6 games, it'd probably be very different as well, actually.
What do you want?
Next 5 game weeks. Well, we could look. We were talking about matchups there. Like, this is the open play chances conceded, but we've basically just said that
target Liverpool right back.
Target Liverpool right back. Yeah,
it's mad, isn't it? So you got when it's conceded, you got to flip it, haven't you? To almost what's the player you're targeting type stuff. So if they're conceding,
although I think Liverpool are maybe second worst for set pieces conceded, chances conceded from set pieces. They're certainly up there. Anyway, so again, we're looking at, well, that's open play, but also they really can't defend set pieces as well. So
yeah,
I'll need to check that, but they're bad.
No, but is that
surprisingly bad?
Is that Liverpool right back or is that Liverpool left back?
Liverpool right back.
Okay.
100% Liverpool right back. 100%. I read the article, not just.
Fair, no, fair enough. No, that's fair. I believe you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Brighton, no one attacks them down the left side. Also, no one attacks their left back.
And Brighton's left produced very few chances as well. They were one of the lowest as well. So just defend.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Sorry, just flicking between the two. We've got basically we had one on CBIT, but I think we're way past DEFCON stuff. We've got basically the next 5 game weeks, and then you've already spoken about review versus Solio and all this sort of stuff, so we don't really need to cover that again. So I guess we can, before Baker and I talk about it on Thursday, I guess. These are the next 5 game weeks. Data coming from Solio, looking on the left at projected goals, and the right-hand side is the probability of clean sheets. They might not be in perfect order based on the totals. So I had to chop game week 11 out of this one. But, all the teams I guess we've kind of expect to see are in those spaces, right? We've known for a while that Liverpool's attack over the next 5 weeks is expected to be very good. Don't know whether Arsenal's clean sheet percentages reduce slightly with the Gabriel stuff. Although, is it Mascara that will come in? Because Mascara kind of just came in for Saliba, so is he on the wrong side? Or
it probably will be. You've got obviously, I don't know, is it Hinchape? How do you do it?
Hincape?
Hincape? However you want to.
Yeah.
Hincape. However you want to do it.
Captain Ecuador this international break. So,
they could do it either way, couldn't they? They could play him as left centre back and play Calafiori outside of it, or you could even move Calafiori inside one and play him left back.
Yes.
So either way, they've still got many ways. The bit that we'd be more interested is who becomes the target. Who becomes the target for it? I don't know what the latest is on Gyökeres, but I also think if anyone took Did you take the punt on Marino, Ivan?
No.
You're close to it. You were thinking about it.
Yeah. No, I didn't know.
But if anyone did take the punt, it wouldn't surprise me if they gave him a few more games because he's the best. He's the best at attacking set plays. He's really bloody
Yep.
good at it.
I think before the last match, people were thinking, oh, maybe Jesus appears on the bench, Havertz is nearly there, etc. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not at all. And you get a good number of games out of Marino.
No. If you've got Gabriel and you're free hitting in 13, you kind of need to know that he's going to be out for a little while, I think.
Yeah.
Because if there's a chance that he might not be, if there's a chance there might be 1 to 2, or we'll see and all that stuff, I think you can still bury him. I think you can quite easily still bury him for this week because there's loads of decent fixtures this week. Even like Joe Roden's at 29% clean this week. Let alone Anderson's got a great fixture.
I was going to say, I said I was going to bench Anderson for Virgil if I brought him in.
Exactly.
That's 40%.
Palace guy's got a great fixture. Yeah, all those that like most people have got ones from most of these players where they can put a defense together of guys between 30 and 40%. So yeah, I think if you are planning on free hitting, you should probably stick with it unless we know further. I think if you're not free hitting, this becomes really, really fun and interesting because it's Forest and West Ham, and I do still think is Van Dijk. It could happen.
It really is interesting. I'm interested to see Liverpool so low in the defence, which is quite right. But quite often these things have a little bit of a tendency to evolve slowly or react slowly. So I think they're reflecting the fact that actually legit they're not that great defensively. Not terrible. But yeah, Forest and West Ham, I would have thought that would be higher. And maybe it will be by the end of the week, who knows?
Yeah. I think it's still those guys though, don't you? If you are moving, I think the only one I'd probably move Gabriel onto would be Van Dijk.
Yeah.
Anderson, maybe. If you had a good plan to some money, I could see that as well.
I mean, the next 3 after that are dreadful. But
if you're free hitting in 13, and then there's loads of teams with good fixtures in 14, 15, and then he's there for you in 16.
We need more info essentially. But I think a lot of people will be going, well, I'm going to have a lot of transfers by the time he's back. So there's points to be had.
Yeah, I get it. Where are you, Adam, with it? Because you're not free hitting 13.
Not free hitting 13. I'm tempted by taking him down to even this week for O'Reilly at City.
Hello.
So he started 7 out of the last 8 games. I'm not convinced that Aït-Nouri is going to get a ton of minutes because he's just back from injury and he's going to be desperate to be fit for AFCON. Like, if there's one thing he's not going to want to do is it's reoccur that.
Yeah, they can use AFCON in a way to be his pre-season again, almost.
Yeah. And they can have a little handshake that says, we won't play him, you'll be good. And then, he turns up for AFCON, all healthy and fit. He gets some minutes there. Maybe plays, I don't know where Algeria are in those.
They must have a Carabao as well, don't they? Must be a Carabao. Must be a bit of Carabao action for them.
Are they Carabaoing? They might be. I can't remember. We're out. Are we out because of them? No. We lost to Newcastle.
Brentford, 16th of December. I think that's just before. That's right before.
Perfect.
Between 16 and 17 it is. So he could probably do that and then go home to Brentford.
The only risk I guess is like Pep definitely won't play Aït-Nouri in the Real Madrid game. Just can't see it.
He might play him home Sunderland though, mightn't he?
He might play him home Sunderland before
15.
But then if Gabriel's back by then, I'm pivoting back, right? So probably doesn't make a difference. And I probably wouldn't do anything. I probably wouldn't do anything with the money. So I probably could just go back there.
We'd always find room for the money.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not rushing on any other moves really. Like Reinders is Reinders. He's a move out at some point, but before 13, I don't know. And he's easily benchable for now. And because I had bench boost, I've still got a strong bench.
Yeah.
so I've still got players that are fairly decent over the next few weeks, having made that move to sort of cover game week 14 with Richards. Yeah, I've got players I can, but it is just saying like I'm not going to go at Liverpool when they are, projected to next 3 weeks to be all above 2 goals, and next 3 weeks to be all above 34% and above clean sheets. Just not to go there, and I know I'll just literally be taking on that defense because Gabriel will be sold by probably half his owners if he's confirmed out for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, 100%.
And you just lose money as well. The price will go down. I think we just have to be aware of that because of how FPL works. I think we do need to be just aware of price moves over the next week.
And interesting that in that because 13 is a free hit week, that I think everybody then says, well, also if I've still got my triple captain, I'll triple captain in 13. But technically, 15, Haaland has a better. Or Man City have a higher predicted goals in 15 than they do 13. But it's the nature of the beast of FPL is like we've got to do one against the other here. It's got to be a who's win decision.
I think it's
Sunderland at home.
Sunderland.
But that's just before the Real Madrid game, so I'm not interested in that. Like 13 feels better because it's after Leverkusen, but it's it's away from the 3 games in a week. Like he'll play the home game, maybe he doesn't play the Fulham game. Maybe he gets rested minutes in the Fulham game. Haaland, I'm talking about. And as I say, everyone's got him, so it doesn't really matter when he gets benched. But in terms of the chip, I feel like the Leeds game, he has to play that game, right? Like his old man used to play for Leeds. Like he has to play it. He's going to play it and he's going to score like 5 goals.
It's...
I've built that narrative. I've built that narrative.
But I think it is we have to build that narrative because it's a free hit week.
Yes. I'm doing that right now. 2.3 equals 5. We showed the variance chart earlier, mate. That's where we're going with.
So tell you what, we looked at the bunchiness and we were going, oh yeah, Thiago. I mean, 1.2, 1.7, absolutely. Then 0.8, 1.2, 1.4. It tempers it somewhat, doesn't it? It brings it back down to earth a little bit and said, well, the fixtures, the bunchiness is good, but let's not get too carried away. There may be other options.
It's 16 on. This is why I said if you don't have him and you are free hitting in 13, he's perfect. You don't have him in 12, you free hit him in 13, and then you see him in 16. Because they'll be between for Leeds, Wolves, Bournemouth home, Tottenham home, Everton away, Sunderland home. That 6 runs, but they'll be between 1.4 and about 1.6 every week, of which he'll probably end up with about 0.6 of it, and that's what you want from him. If you have
as well, then
is I think Ollie Watkins has averaged something like 0.3, 0.4 xG per 90 for his whole time. And if he was ever been 6 million, you'd have snapped your hand off. That's all you need from him.
Yep.
So even the 1.2s, they're fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just interesting, isn't it? You see the bunchiness and you take it at face value, and you get this gut thing saying, "Wow, well, I'm getting it," and then you look at it and go, well, "Maybe I won't actually."
I can wait. I can wait.
Yeah,
I can
exactly.
wait. But as we come back to fast and direct, doesn't need it. He'll get 0.4, 0.5 if he gets anything like that per game, and that's non-pen. And he takes pens and he scores his pens. It's nothing but a solid pick. But yeah, ideally, if you're free hitting in 13, why would you get him before? Because then you've got Arsenal away at 14. That captaincy for 14, what you just said there, like you said, is the Fulham away. Does Haaland play 90 in Fulham away? That's probably the next big decision, isn't it? Because 14, you've got West Ham at home for Man United, and you've got Brentford at home for Arsenal. Bruno, West Ham.
Yeah.
Well, Bruno and Bumo both got corners.
Yeah.
Both got corners. Saka also has corners. That's Brentford.
I think we've got to call it there.
That's that. Yeah.
I think we've got to call it there, boys. I don't even know how long that was. That was great. I enjoyed that.
I've got no idea. I've got actually no idea how long we've been talking for.
No idea.
It's lovely.
But
this is all new. This is all new for us.
Yeah, it's good fun. But it is, I mean, and what's good about that is obviously we've contextualized as much as possible all the data, and it's we've taken various different sources of information there as well. So it is not like we're just looking at one thing and staying with one source. And then working with that, we've seen some sort of independent Twitter stuff. We've used some sort of more mainstream stat stuff and
Football stuff, FPL stuff.
FPL stuff, all the stuff. Ivan, this took the words out of my mouth.
Steal it.
If you don't follow Ivan already on X, you can do at Reuser5, REUSER.
That's right.
5. And we'll have to figure out when the next process update will be. But I think we'll probably get Christmas out of the way and then see how we're looking in the new year once the boys are back from AFCON.
We have 10 days between Game Week 21 and Game Week 22. 10 days.
Lock it in.
FA Cup third round.
Lock it in. Sounds good. Sounds good.
I reckon that's what we could do. We could do the weekend, Sunday night maybe of the FA Cup third round.
Perfect. If you are new around here, make sure you drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Hit subscribe if you want to see more. And Baker and I will be back on Thursday for our team selection. Catch you later.
See you later, boys.
We do